The attack, we can talk to Igor Khokhlov from the Institute of World Economy and International Relations. The investigators say the attack was carried out by a man, not by a woman or women like we saw last year at the Moscow March metro bombings. With such varying tactics being carried out by the terrorists, it only makes the job of the intelligence services more difficult.
Oh, I wouldn't say that terrorists vary their tactics too much, you see. They actually employ people who are ready to do the job at this or that specific moment of time. Usually women are more preferable as they attract usually less attention, and people don't suspect women to be terrorists or any source of danger. It's just a matter of psychology. So if we take a look at classic suicide bomber, for instance, in Palestine, usually it's a male. So in this case, it's a traditional suicide bombing, if you can say about it. So it's quite traditional tactics.
Let's talk about the victims of yesterday's blast at Domodedovo airport. A handful of foreigners were killed and severely injured as well. Do you think yesterday's blast, will it wake up the world to what is seen by many as the global threat of terrorism?
Yes, terrorism is a global activity in our globalized world, and actually terrorists, those who organize the terrorist attacks, they usually try to pick up targets which attract maximum attention, and usually they try to target common people, and usually they try to target not only the citizens of the country where they commit their crimes, but also foreigners who come into the country, because it gives the whole issue international agenda. So the idea of terrorists is to attract public attention, because most of terrorist organizations, they are sponsored from abroad, especially those that work in Russia. And of course they have to explain their sponsors why their activity is effective. So usually they try to hit soft targets like underground. It was 2 terrorist attacks in Moscow a year ago. And now they try to hit international hub. Domodedovo is a major international hub in Russia, so they try to target this kind of targets.
Let's address an issue that hasn't really seen much examination at all over the last 24 hours or so. You are an economics expert. Talk to me about how this could possibly have an economic ramification for Russia. Moscow is a massive financial hub. Do you think such an indiscriminate bombing at the airport could discourage foreign investors, do you think?
You know, foreign investors are really prudent when doing business in Russia, and they have understand there is a certain amount of risk. Investors come into Israel with their money, and you know, if we talk about the chance of being hit by terrorists in Russia or in Israel, it's absolutely incomparable. In Russia, terrorism, especially in central Russia, is still exotic. So it doesn't happen very often, and it's not a risk for every person, unlike, for instance, Israel, where every person is afraid of being the victim of terrorist attack. I don't think it will have any kind of economic consequences for Russia. There are still many tourists. Today I was driving across Moscow. I was in the downtown. There are a lot of foreign tourists doing sightseeing. So
the foreign tourists are still here. You're saying that the foreign investment will still come to Russia. But let's talk about the psychological effect here rather than the economic effect. The attacks, suicide bombers such as this, they're trying to spread fear and panic. Do you think they've succeeded this time after yesterday's attack, less than 1 year after the Moscow March metro bombings?
Of course, terrorists try to instill fear and panic. That's their target. That's why they use these suicide bomber tactics. But, you know, Russian society, unfortunately, has used to live with this kind of threat. Terrorist attacks don't happen very often, and most people, of course, they understand it. There are certain chances of being a victim, but I don't think it has hit. It has hit really hard, because, you know, today I spent a lot of time in downtown Moscow. People still go shopping, they still go to cafes. Of course,
much like the metro bombings last year. When
Yes.
the bombings occurred, people still got on the buses, they still got on the metros, they still went to work, and after yesterday's Domodedovo attack, people are still going around their daily lives.
People
here.
mourn the victims, and of course it's an awful thing that happened. Nobody wants to have such a tragedy happen to himself or a member of his family. People, of course, mourn the victims, but still, life goes on. Life goes on.
All right, Igor Khokhlov from the Institute of World Economy and International Relations. Thank you very much.